Website. Good morning, Jen. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. You?
Always. Yes, ma'am. Tell me what you thought about the Super Bowl.
I'm glad it was 13-3, and I'm
Yeah, me
glad it was
too.
one of the what was it? The lowest viewed Super Bowl in 10 years. I know I sound petty. I admit it. I am.
Yeah,
Join the
everybody
crowd.
is.
Yeah, right. Line starts behind us for sure.
Well, I watch though.
With
Yeah,
the
yeah. Continue.
so with Anthony Davis and the Pelicans right now, everybody talking about that, and really he stole more headlines last week than really I thought he would. I knew that the NBA is mainstream news and that they're going to be on the headlines of newspapers around the country. But the week of the Super Bowl, did it surprise you how far he dug in? Like, I mean, Wednesday, Thursday of last week, people were still talking about the Davis news and Rich Paul talking about wanting out of New Orleans.
I think Rich Paul timed that specifically, and I sure hope it was worth that big fat check that they're going to have to cut for making an illegal announcement. I can tell you, I think AD is certainly reaping the repercussions in terms of backlash, and so many people have said, "Oh, so he's not such a great person. He's not the nice guy he's always been painted to be." He is. He made a mistake. I don't think he thinks that yet. I do think in 10 years he's going to look back and think, I should have handled that exit differently. I think he got some real bad advice from Clutch Sports. I think they looked at New Orleans as a small market that they could dictate and push around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rich Paul drew his line in the sand and thought that would put pressure on Dell Demps and the organization to trade Anthony Davis when they wanted him traded and set things up perfectly for the Lakers. I don't think either one of them anticipated New Orleans pushing back this hard.
Jen Hale joining us here at Jen Hale 504 is where you can follow her on Twitter. Jen, we were talking about this Davis situation. It's awkward right now, but if you make it past the trade deadline on Thursday, it's going to really get weird. T-Bob and I were kind of comparing it to a breakup in hour number one. I mean, once you break up and then you kind of move out of the house from each other and go your separate ways, this is breaking up and stay living together and just wondering what each other is doing. How awkward could this potentially turn between Davis, the franchise, if it looks like they're going to get past this deadline on Thursday?
I think that is a perfect analogy, actually. In the locker room, being in there with the guys, they're okay in there. They tune out the noise. AD, he sat them all down and talked to them before this announcement came out. Once it did come out, he took them all out to dinner. So internally, they are being able to still maintain some form of semblance, some form of normalcy together. I don't think there are hard feelings from the players to AD. Now, I think where it gets really weird is if he's still there and he's not playing, and I just cannot see the Pelicans putting him back in a uniform and on the court, I think that's when the wear and tear of the situation and knowing you have, another 28 games or something to go, I think that's when you're going to start to see the strain of the situation materialize.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. Yeah, well, where does this all end? But what about the actual trade? Like, outside of the awkwardness that's coming up, what about the actual trade offers that are on the table? What did you think about what the Lakers offered yesterday? That it's a lot. I don't know if it's a lot of good, but it is a lot versus maybe what Boston could offer down the road.
I think it's a lot of quantity without a whole lot of quality.
Yes, yes. It's like we're just going to throw everything at you.
You want our
hope that we
Mercedes,
overwhelm
and you're
you.
going to give us all these Hondas.
Yeah, but it's a lot of Hondas.
Exactly.
It's a lot of different
It's a
models.
lot of Hyundais, but who really wants that?
Exactly.
You have a player in ball who doesn't want to be in New Orleans, made no bones about that. So that can't turn out to be a fruitful situation for New Orleans. Two picks, you know how picks go. It could end up being a New Orleans Noel. Who knows? So that isn't, to me, nearly enough for a proven commodity, a generational player that with an aging LeBron, the Lakers are looking at AD, hoping he'll be the face of the franchise going forward. No, you got to pony up more than that. And I think, honestly, the attitude in that front office, it was really interesting, the amount of personnel in and out of the facility yesterday, all the top brass. I think it was a little insulting. I think the Rich Paul group thought that they were going to dictate this situation, and New Orleans is pushing back hard, saying, no way in hell is that going to happen?
Yeah, and Jen, let's talk about some other awkwardness that's kind of simmering under the surface right now, which is the long-term job status of Dell Demps. It's a bit odd because I really don't see a way that you survive this. Like, he's had a long time. He had Anthony Davis 6.5 years. He's now leaving under these circumstances. I don't know how he keeps his job, but he's still the one dealing with potential trade offers. Where does this all end for Dell?
Well, I think we have to see the result of the trade. If you can get the right value for Anthony Davis, yes, the situation sucks, but if you can get the right trade situation and the right players in, this could be a fresh start. It's not a fresh start you really wanted to make, but it's kind of like a breakup where you go through the pain, you go through the embarrassment, and maybe you end up with somebody who is a better fit for you down the road and you end up happier.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the Pelicans have to look at this and how they are looking at this. All right, what's the next step? Because there are some other great players out there, and thankfully with this much time left on Davis's contract, you should be able to get some really nice pieces and start over. Let's just pray, guys, that it's not a situation like Chris Paul and when he at first attempted to get traded to the Lakers and the trade got blocked and the trade value got all stripped down. If this can play out the way that it should, I actually think Dell could salvage a lot of the egg on his face.
It is interesting. I guess it's just interesting outside looking in that he is the one allowed to orchestrate the trade, just given how poor the Pelicans have been in the 9 years that he's been there. Quite frankly, to me, if there's ever a clearer time to start a just completely new era of Pelicans basketball, I feel like I don't know. I feel like this offseason is it.
Well, I can certainly tell you there has been a lot of traffic around that front office area. There are a lot of hands looking at this and debating this, and a lot of minds turning it over and over. I don't think it would be a singular decision just by Dell. I do think Dell is working 24/7, working the phone lines, working those contacts, trying to see what's out there. With the way that Clutch Sports announced this and put this out there, it really kind of knocked the negotiating knees, so to speak, out from underneath the Pelicans. And the Kristaps Porzingis trade is a perfect example of how that's supposed to go down and how it's not for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, look, make no mistake about it. They are trying to spike the Boston deal. They are trying everything they can to get to LA, but the same way that AD's got to do what's best for him, the Pelicans got to do what's best for them. Last one here, Jen. We're talking to Jennifer Hale, Fox Sports, NBA, NFL reporter. She's incredible. Do we want the Pelicans to win from here on out? Kind of not.
Yeah, what a good question. So I have to say this. I'm watching those young guys battle night in and night out, and I don't know how much y'all have had a chance to watch, but they are coming within 2 or 3 points every night of winning. I do hope they get a couple wins under their belt. I know that's not the favorable answer for draft status, but they're working so hard. I want to see them some sort of reward for it. That being said, I certainly think we have to keep in mind draft position, but Bob, you know this, players and coaches don't think that way. They're programmed to win and win at all costs. And that's a front office strategy. That is not a player strategy, and that's not a coach strategy. These young guys feel like they're getting their chance, they're getting their moment, and they are doing everything they can to capitalize on it.
Yeah, the players got to keep their jobs.
Sure, man.
That's why you got to run out starting lineups with.
I'm about to get little Jay a Kendrick Williams shirt.
Frank Jackson, Kendrick
Exactly.
Williams.
Hey, Jen, tell our listeners why you were wearing red on February 1st.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So February is Heart Awareness Month. I went through a situation where I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, basically usually a 5-year life expectancy. And thanks to great medical care, I've been able to beat it. And it was something that I was not aware of, even though it's genetic and runs in my family. So I'm hoping everybody will be smarter than I am and take this month as an excuse, as a reason to go talk about your family history, write it down, educate yourself, especially if there is a history of those types of problems in your family. It can really be life-saving when it comes to heart issues.
Good to hear from you this morning. Hashtag Go Red for Women on Twitter. You can find her at Jen Hale 504. Thanks for the time this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure as always.
Always. We'll close it out next.